So this application here improves the time to interactive by applying some code splitting mechanism, as you can see here. So only when we click here that button, in fact, let's prove that. So initially we get these files here, and then when the button is clicked, the additional JavaScript file gets loaded in just for visualizing that specific route. Now, obviously, once we transition from one page to another, that downloading of that file, obviously depending on our network connection and also on the size of that file, may take a while. So what we want to do here is to visualize here a loading indicator. So first of all, let's go to that app component, which has the router outlet, which basically visualizes here our components. And so inside here, we paste in such a span with a loader class that gets visualized when that loading flag is set to true. Don't worry about that loader here. There's a bunch of CSS behind that visualizes an animation. But we're not quite interested into that, but rather how to visualize that, how to show that and hide that. As we said, this happens with this loading flag. So first of all, we need to define that. This is a Boolean. And then in the constructor here, we need to initialize that. So first of all, let's say this is equals to false because we are not loading at all. Let's also save here our app component HTML. And now we need to understand when the loading should start and when it finishes. And that happens basically in our case with the router transition. And so whenever we click, a routing transition happens and then it terminates at some point. And so here we can use that router, and we can obviously fetch that via the dependency injection from that Angular router package. And that router now exposes different kind of events. So we can first of all subscribe to those events. So here we have an event, which is a router event. So basically, if that event is an instance of that route config load start event, which we need to import, of course, then we want that loading animation to start and to visualize. Else, if that event is an instance of that route config load end event, we want to hide it again. All right, so now let's save this. Let's see where this works. Actually, you can see it very briefly. Let me here refresh and then throttle the connection a bit. So if I click, you can see that loading, and then the new page gets visualized.